Those are my first cherries on my Stella cherry tree that I planted a year and a half ago here in my backyard garden. Now I've been wanting to eat them because, well, I have snuck maybe 5 or 6, and there's another dozen or so on the tree. I thinned these out earlier in the year because it's a very young tree, but oh my goodness, they're so ripe right now, so ready, and I'm a little afraid, no, very afraid that the birds are gonna come by and grab them if I don't. Hi, I'm Kim, and this is Olive City Oasis in Northern California. Today I want to share with you yet again why you definitely need to grow some fruit trees. I'm going to share with you some of my brand new, very young but promising cherry trees and one of my established cherry trees, a delicious, beautiful Rainier. If you like cherries, let me tell you that homegrown fresh cherries off the tree are about 100 times better than store-bought cherries. So if you can possibly grow some, I really encourage you to do so. And when I say possibly, almost all of you can. I live in Zone 9B where it gets really hot, as most of you know, and I'm not supposed to be able to grow cherries, but I've been doing it for 6 years now or more. And you know, you just have to pick the right variety. This is a Stella. I also grow Rainier. And here is a brand new Lapins. I've grown Lapins out in my orchard, so I know they do well along with the Stella and Rainier for me. And I wanted to add them to my backyard garden to provide not only more fruit, but extra shade and a more perennial food source, as I am cutting back somewhat on the amount of annual veggies I'm growing. Now, these are just recently planted. I planted them this past winter in, I don't know if it was January or February. I'll put a link to that video at the end of this one, but they're doing great. Now, this one did not bud out here, so I'm going to cut it down right here and have this come out as a branch. But my other branches, what will be my scaffolding branches, are coming out nicely. And here is my other new one, another Stella. So next year, these 2 brand new ones will be producing fruit as well. And what is this, you say? This is my nectarine tree, which I planted the same time as that first cherry tree I showed you that's producing fruit a year and a half ago. And already you can see it is full of fruit this second spring season it's had since it's been in the ground. Believe it or not, I thinned so much fruit from this tree, and it looks like I could have pruned even more. But that's okay. I am going to enjoy these when they are ripe, because there is nothing quite like a fresh nectarine off the tree. Nectarines are probably one of my most favorite fruits, and you know, in the store, they're rock hard. You have to bring them home, set them on the counter, wait for them to ripen, and they never taste anywhere near as good as they would if you got them off your own tree. So again, plant some. You don't need much space at all. I densely plant my fruit trees, and they all do very well. I also keep them pruned very low, as I've mentioned in past videos, so that I don't have an issue harvesting them. Yeah, the one thing I definitely could improve on, and I work at it every year, is thinning more. The truth is, growing fruit trees is something anyone can do, no matter where you live or how much space you have. There are varieties of fruit trees for everyone, and I'm sure there are some that you will find just wonderful. I've actually come up with 5 good, strong reasons why you should grow a few fruit trees at least, maybe a lot more. Now, if you've never grown fruit trees before, or maybe you tried a while ago and it didn't work out for some reason and you think, I just can't do it, let me assure you, you can. There's only really 3 things that I recommend you do before you go ahead and get those fruit trees. The first is to do some research, and you can do that online. You can go to fruit orchard websites, you know, nurseries, and get some good advice there. You can go to YouTube channels who are growing fruit trees, perhaps in your area. That's what I suggest, because Depending on your climate, depending on your gardening zone, well, you're going to pick different varieties. And so you can get some really good suggestions from people who are already growing them and who are sharing their advice online. Another thing, though, that you can do if you're having trouble finding what you're looking for online, or if you just would rather do it in person, your research, is to go around your community. And by that, I don't just mean the little area you live in, the 5-mile radius, but, a good hour all around you. Look at these places that have the same types of weather conditions you do, the same temps in the winter, the same kind of sun, direct, indirect, intense or not, and see what they're growing. Look in their yards, look on their properties. The reason I knew I could grow cherry trees here, even though a lot of what I read online said it was too hot in the summer and would burn them up, is that I saw other people growing fruit trees around here. The same could be said of citrus. So I thought, well, if they can do it, so can I. And that leads to a third thing that I suggest you do, which is experiment. Okay, I guess this one goes along with getting your first fruit trees. After you decide which varieties stand the best chance of thriving in your area, well then go ahead and try a few. Don't go out and buy 20 fruit trees all at once. Buy a few, maybe 3, 5 at most perhaps. Of course, I didn't really follow my own advice when I started my fruit orchard about 8 or 9 years ago now. I did probably buy 15 trees the first year, but considering how many I have now, that was just a few. But yes, experiment. Try some out. Make sure they're kinds that you love. Make sure they're kinds you've seen growing in your area, or at least you think they stand a good chance of doing well in your area. And then just keep track of what happens. Don't make the mistake of thinking you're going to remember everything, because you won't. Keep the labels on the tree. Draw a little map showing where each of your trees is planted on your property. You will thank me for this advice later, because even though you're just sure you're going to remember everything, you won't. And then just keep track of how the trees do those first few crucial years. And as you see what is working well on your property or in your backyard, then you can add more fruit trees, more of the ones that are doing well, and also just others that you think based on what you've seen would also do well. And that's all really there is to it. Research, observe, and experiment. So I mentioned I've got 5 reasons that I like to share with people about why they should definitely grow fruit trees. The first is they are far less expensive for the amount of produce they give you than things like veggies. So yeah, they require an upfront investment, maybe $40, $50, $60, $70 at most. But that is well worth what you gain from them in the long run. Fruit trees live 20, 30, 40, 50 or more years, and all that time you are gleaning fruit every single year. And if you're growing organically like I do, you don't need to invest in anything else. You don't need to invest in, pesticides or fertilizers, because you can come up with natural alternatives to those things. Now, the second reason you should grow fruit trees is that they are less work than a regular veggie garden. By the way, I'm not suggesting you don't grow a veggie garden. I'm just pointing out that with fruit trees, you can enjoy all sorts of delicious fruit with far less work than vegetable growing takes. And yes, there is again a one-time investment when you plant the tree. You gotta dig a hole, you've gotta put it in the ground just so, and you have to mulch it and set up a watering system, or like me, hand water most of the time. Depends on how many trees you have, I guess. But other than that initial investment of planting the tree and once or twice a year doing some minor pruning, and it is minor if you do it every year, especially twice a year. It only is major if you procrastinate and put it off. Don't do that. But other than that, there really is no ongoing work. Veggie gardens are fun and rewarding too, but they do require daily work, don't they? And in addition to less work, it's also less watering, because fruit trees, well,
Even the first year when you've just planted them, they don't require as much water as veggies demand. And so you'll find out that whether you set up an automatic system of some sort, drip line, low sprinklers, or whether you do it by hand, you will have to do far less watering for fruit trees than you do for veggies. And, well, that saves both money and time. So the third reason I suggest you grow some fruit trees is that, well, they can provide a very good climate for your other gardens, veggies or flowers. If you have some plants, some veggies, say, that need some extra shade during those really hot, intense summer months, then fruit trees, while producing fruit for you, can change the microclimate just around those veggies. And I started thinking about this a few years ago and started using potted fruit trees I had, mostly figs and mulberries I'd grown from cuttings, to try this out in my garden to experiment, and it worked. Fruit trees provided just the right amount of shade for my growing veggies, not too much, they still get plenty of sun, but in the mid to late afternoon, direct intense sun, the fruit trees definitely provided some much appreciated relief to the veggies. So this past year I decided, as I realized I could cut back on my veggie garden growing as I don't have as many people eating the veggies here, that instead of filling every bed with veggies that I ended up either giving to my animals or giving away, I would use some of those beds for fruit trees and at the same time provide some shade for my other plants that I have growing in this zone 9B, sometimes 115 to 120 degree heat for days on end. And it has already started working. It's only mid-May, but I have seen the 5 or is it 6 fruit trees that I planted in the ground in my veggie garden this year in some of the beds. They are already helping out with the young seedlings as we have had a very warm May. It's been in the mid to high 90s for weeks now already. So I'm really glad I went about this because it's definitely working. And here is one of my older cherry trees. One of my Rainiers. Can you spot any fruit left on it? They hide pretty well, and I have harvested a lot, but there are some left. There's a couple. Let's see if we can see any more. Oh, there's one. Oh, little flashes of yellow red. There are a few. And there. Yeah, once you really look, you can find them. Of course, the birds find them too, which is why I've been harvesting. With cherries, I don't generally harvest all at once because they don't come ripe all at once. Instead, I like to harvest on a day-to-day basis and then enjoy the fruits as I pick them. I might pick several dozen and do a cherry pie or some cherry jam, or I might pick a few and just eat them as I go about my morning of watering the gardens. Now this year I've had slightly less cherries than usual, and that happens occasionally with fruit trees, you know. Some fruit trees are biennial, meaning they produce naturally more one year than another. And sometimes you'll get a frost right at blossom time, which will take some of the blossoms and therefore some of the fruit. But other years you'll have a bumper crop. And you'll have more fruit than you know what to do with. That's when you share. Yeah, share, or something I like to do, preserve. My favorite way is jam. Now, the fourth reason that I recommend people grow fruit trees is the perhaps most obvious reason: the delicious, organic, healthy, fresh fruit. I mean, nothing tastes like homegrown fruit. And these fruits, eaten fresh off the tree, taste so much better than the same exact varieties in the stores. And the other thing is that, well, you won't be able to get all the varieties in the stores. There are dozens and dozens of fruit varieties for you to choose from when you grow yourself, whereas the stores tend to carry the same 3 or 4 varieties of most fruits, sometimes even only 1 or 2. And, well, you know, it's nice if that's all you can get.
But if you grow your own fruit trees, you can choose what varieties you want. You can experiment by tasting other people's. You can research and find out what these things taste like. And you can go for a variety that would never be available in the store. I certainly had never tasted a Stella or a Lapins before. Rainier I had, so I knew I wanted to grow it. And Rainier cherries require cross-pollination, so when I was doing my research, I had to find which cherries would pollinate the Rainiers. And two of them that do it very well, you guessed it, are the Stella and the Lapins. They just happen to be sweet cherries, which was also very nice because now I have a variety of flavors and they work well together or separately, however you want to enjoy them. But yes, if you grow your fruit trees, as you easily can do, growing on your own and not in a commercial way, and you're just growing in your own backyard, and you're on your own small property, you don't need to use the commercial pesticides and such that big growers do. You can grow them organically and you can enjoy your fresh, healthy fruit the moment they're ripe. Now, the last reason, the fifth one, that I like to tell people about when I encourage them to grow fruit trees is that fruit trees are beautiful. Growing a few of these, or a lot of these like I do, makes your yard, your property gorgeous all year round. Of course, in the spring, when the fruit trees are blossoming, there's nothing so beautiful, but in the summer, all this green, oh my gosh, in California for sure, up north where I live, most of the summer with our, super hot, dry heat, all around you, the mountains and the pastures are golden, which I like because I was raised here, but a lot of people don't. But the greenery of fruit trees is such an awesome view amidst all the golden grasses and pastures around. And then something I did not know about until I started growing fruit trees is that most of them have gorgeous fall color too. And that was just, an added bonus for me. I love fall colors. And here I have a whole property full of them. So yes, the beauty of fruit trees is another reason to plant them all around your home. Well, I hope I've convinced you to give growing fruit trees a try. It is easy, it is so rewarding, and it's so much fun. And if you're already growing fruit trees, well then, maybe now's the time to up your game, grow a few more. I just got in a very late delivery of persimmon trees, 2 bare roots, a chocolate persimmon and a coffee cake persimmon. So I'm going to be planting those today out here in my orchard. And I'm excited about that. I've never had persimmon trees before, but according to my research, they grow really well here. So we're going to give it a try. How about you? What fruit trees are you thinking about trying to grow this year, next year, and in the future? Let me know in the comments. So I'm going to go ahead and harvest these last cherries before the birds get them all, and then I'll share with you how many I got. Well, I have overfilled my bowl. I thought there was only going to be maybe a dozen or 2 cherries left on the tree, as I've picked so many already the last few weeks, but this bowl's overfull, probably has 4 dozen in it, and there's still probably another bowl worth on the tree. So I'll have to come back and get those, but I'm not complaining. The more cherries, the better. So I hope you will strongly consider growing some fruit trees yourself. Again, just start off with a few and have fun and enjoy the sweet, sweet rewards. Until next time, happy growing.